This week on the Brisbane Property Podcast, we'll share some listing numbers.
Yes, we're going to be unpacking where there's going to be a much higher volume of properties available for sale, giving buyers more choice. But also, in contrast, we're going to look at where there's very little to buy and where you might find there's higher levels of competition. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Brisbane Property Podcast with your hosts, Melinda and Scott Jennison.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Brisbane Property Podcast with Scott and Melinda Jennison. And today we're going to give you a bit of an understanding on listings in Brisbane.
Why does this matter, Scott? And welcome back, everybody. I'm going to get straight into it today because there's so much data that we're going to be sharing. So why does it matter? Because people in Brisbane want to know where it's going to be hardest to buy, and we also want to know where it's going to be a bit easier. That is where there's nothing that's being listed, where listings are so tight that you're going to be fighting against other buyers, but also where there's an abundance of listings, where you're going to be able to choose from more properties. We talk about listings data at a Greater Brisbane level in our monthly update podcasts. Today, we're breaking it down to postcode level. So this is going to give you a much better snapshot view of where there's more to choose from and where there's not. So we hope you enjoy this episode.
So this, all this is from SQM Research.
Yes.
And this has all been put together by Pauline in our team over in the Philippines. Thank you so much, Pauline.
Thank you, Pauline. We're always ever so grateful. And Pauline knows just how much I love a good spreadsheet. And when Pauline spends sometimes hours and hours or sometimes days pulling together data at a suburb or postcode level for me in every location across Brisbane, it just gives me the opportunity to really analyze that data and then overlay what we find with what we know based on our local knowledge of an area. And I think that can be game changing when you can really see those trends follow what you're seeing on the ground, because of course data is always retrospective. So thank you, Pauline. We're ever so grateful that you continue to support us in this way and enable us to bring this valuable information to our audience.
And to use, obviously, in-house here at Streamline Property Buyers. So new listings. So what we'll do today is we'll run through new listings, and we're going to do a top 10 or tightest 10, I guess, if you want to call it that way, total listings, and then then we'll go through the highest supply, so the highest listings, and we'll run through that, give you a little bit of an idea. We won't go through all the numbers that we've got in front of us. It would take all day, but we'd look at things like visits per property. So whether it's a 2-bedroom, whether it's a 3-bedroom, whether it's a 4-bedroom property, and we can then marry that up with the listing numbers to see areas of demand and that as well.
I'm not going to give all the secrets away in today's episode because I think there's another whole podcast in where is the greatest demand sitting here in Brisbane. And I think actually, Scott, we can schedule that in one of the up and coming episodes, because actually, historically speaking, they are one of the most popular episodes. And we've recorded demand suburbs, or the highest demand suburbs in Brisbane, I think, on a couple of previous episodes in a couple of different time periods. So I know people are wondering what is happening, where are the buyers, where is the demand? And I think that is a topic for another podcast. So today, let's focus on listings. Let's focus on, what's actually available. We'll give some hints of where the demand might be sitting in certain locations, but we're certainly not going to give all of the secrets away.
Okay, so if we look at the new listings, so one of the tightest one, Belmont. So Belmont has 4 new listings now. This is under 30 days.
Correct, yes. So this data is from SQM Research. It's data that was relevant up to the end of April. So across the previous 30 days, Belmont had only 4 new properties listed. So that meant 4 properties were listed over a period of 30 days. So that's pretty tight supply. If you are waiting to buy a property in Belmont, you're going to be waiting a while with that sort of listing, with those listing numbers. However, if you're looking at a 4-bedroom house specifically in Belmont, you're going to be waiting a lot longer, because that's where the highest level of demand sits based on the visits per property. So 4-bedroom houses, if you're fighting for one of those in a location like Belmont where there's only 4 properties that have become available in the last 30 days, you're going to be waiting a while. Or it might be an indication that you might have to pay more because it's going to be high competition.
Now the next suburb we've got here is Rocklea. Again, Rocklea, only 4 new listings. Now, keep in mind, Rocklea is a very, very small suburb. and there's quite a bit of area in Rocklea that's flood affected, I should say.
It is. And so I think that's a good time to point out that these numbers are raw numbers. We're not looking at the percentage of listings available based on the number of properties that are located within that suburb. That would be probably a better way to analyse this information. But, we know based on clients that we represent that there are some people that will only specifically be looking in a certain suburb. And so the actual numbers become relevant for people like that. When there's only 4 properties that are available for sale in a particular suburb over a 30-day period, that is new listings that come to the market at a time where you've got, 4 buyers, that would indicate that, potentially, there's one property for each of those buyers. But if you've got hundreds of buyers in those suburbs, there's a lot of competition. So if you were in Rocklea, you'd be looking for a 4-bedroom house as well, because that's where the demand is sitting in terms of the highest volume of buyers visiting those real estate listings per property.
Cooper's Plains comes in next, and Cooper's Plains had 5 new listings in the month.
That's right. And 3-bedroom properties are the property of choice in that particular location.
Riverview comes in next. Now, Riverview is in the Ipswich area, and Riverview had 8 new listings.
In the previous 30 days, that's right. 3-bedroom homes also the most popular property type according to demand in Riverview. So again, keep that in mind if that's the sort of property that you're looking for in that location. And this can also help you to understand, is there an opportunity to buy cheap? Is there an opportunity to pick up a bargain when listings are this tight and demand is that high? That's a question for you to answer. I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there about buying under market value when you've got a market where there's very tight supply at a time where you've got strong buyer demand. It doesn't often happen, especially if there's multiple registered bidders at auction or you're in a multiple offer scenario. But as I said, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet and social media.
Now, the next area is still out in the west. It is Darra, and Darra had 9 new listings.
And Darra, the most popular property type is the 3-bedroom homes as well. What's interesting next on the list is Cinnamon Park. Cinnamon Park, 10 new listings over the last 30 days. And in Cinnamon Park, you'd be looking for a 4-bedroom property. Also in the Brisbane City Council region. And in fact, looking at the top 10 of the tightest supply for new listings, we've actually got 7 suburbs that are in the Brisbane City Council region. So it tells me that locations closer to the Brisbane CBD have fewer properties available for sale or becoming available for sale, certainly in the last month. So in general, that is the trend that we've observed.
And the next one, which is the closest to the CBD, is Annerley, and Annerley had 11 new listings.
Yeah, but in terms of the demand in Annerley, significantly higher than all other suburbs on this top 10 list. So that's also an indication of potentially which direction those prices might be moving. 4-bedroom homes, the most popular, more than 1,000 views per listing. So with only 11 properties becoming available across the whole suburb, and they'll be properties of all sizes, with more than 1,000 people looking for 4-bedroom homes in that location, yeah, there could definitely be some disappointed buyers if they're waiting to get into that market.
Yeah, there's definitely a trend that when you see that demand, obviously a demand area getting closer to the city as well. Algester comes in next with 12 new listings.
Yeah, Algester, again, a 4-bedroom property is the most in-demand property type. Moving down to Logan now, in number 9 position for new listings. Only 12 new listings in the last 30 days in Underwood. So that's a suburb in Logan. And in that suburb, 4-bedroom homes are the property of choice according to buyers looking on those real estate listings as well, with an average number of 533 views per listing.
And wrapping it up, we've got in Moreton Bay area, Rothwell, 13 new listings. So as we've gone through, you can see from Belmont, which was 4, down to number 10, which is Rothwell, with 13 new listings. Pretty tight supply.
Really tight supply at a time where you've got this elevated or heightened buyer demand. If we see interest rates get cut, again, if that does trigger more buyer demand, it's areas like these where there's really limited supply that are likely to see higher levels of competition. And that's why we really wanted to create this podcast episode and break it down by postcode or suburb so that listeners can get an understanding of where there's going to be more competition and where there's potentially less competition in the market across Greater Brisbane.
Now, that first lot, as I mentioned earlier, that is new listings.
That's right, yes.
Now what we'll do is we'll do the 10, the tightest supply, I guess you want to call it, with total listings. So total listings in the Ipswich area, we've got Riverview, 14 total listings. Riverview was in that top area with new listings of 8. So 14 total listings.
Interesting that, we've only got 14 properties in total available for sale across all timelines. This is not just now in the last 30 days. This is what's available for sale. So it includes properties that are over 180 days on market. This is really tight supply, really not a lot to buy in this location. If you're looking for a 3-bedroom house in Riverview, when there's only 14 to choose from online available for sale, you're competing on average with 467 other buyers if you're looking for a 3-bedroom house. So really competitive market for the low volume of listings that exist.
Yep. Next one is Rocklea. It was in the top area as well. So 16 total listings for Rocklea, and there was 4, as I mentioned earlier, in the new listings.
And as I said, it's 4-bedroom homes there that are more popular. Belmont in Brisbane, 17 listings in total in the last, available online. And you'd be looking at the most competitive segment of market being the 4-bedroom homes there.
Next one is Eaton's Hill. I've got a fair idea what sort of homes you're going to buy in Eaton's Hill or what people are going to be looking for. Tend to be a little bit bigger homes out there.
Yeah.
Moreton Bay area, Eaton's Hill, and there was 20 new total listings. And obviously, and then new listings, because it wasn't in the top section, there was 13. So 20 total listings in Eaton's Hill.
Yeah, it's interesting. With 13 new listings in the last 30 days and only 20 available on market, it suggests that market absorption rate is high. That's another term that we use when properties are selling within 30 to 60 days. That's the absorption rate, and they're not sitting on the market for a long period of time and hitting that old stock section. Yes, 4-bedroom homes, definitely the most in-demand property type in Eaton's Hill.
And the next one is Bald Hills. Bald Hills has got 24 total listings.
Yeah, 4-bedroom homes in Bald Hills are more popular than 3-bedroom homes as well. Back in Brisbane, but southwest now, we are with Darra. Darra was also on the top 10 list for new listings. It's on the top 10 list for old listings or total listings as well, with only 25 properties available for sale across Darra. And we've got for 3-bedroom homes being the most popular product in that location.
Salisbury was the next one. Salisbury, 27 total listings.
Yeah, and 4-bedroom homes more popular in terms of buyer demand in that location. Still in Brisbane, Coopers Plains, 28 total listings. Coopers Plains, the most popular product is 3-bedroom homes. Apologies that I'm using the word product. I should say property type. Homes are not products. It's just my data terminology coming out. In fact, 4-bedroom homes are also fairly popular as well, but it's 3-bedroom homes that are the most popular in terms of the average views per listing.
And 4-bedroom homes are the most popular for the next one, and that's in Cinnamon Park, which we did touch on earlier. Cinnamon Park, total listings, 28.
Capera, next on the list in number 8 position, 30 total listings in the suburb of Capera. 4-bedroom homes more popular than 3-bedroom homes in that location as well.
Northgate is the next one. A little bit bigger homes in Northgate area. This is local knowledge coming out here. Total listings of 30 in Northgate.
More popular also for buyers looking for 4-bedroom homes in Northgate as well. So that's where the demand is sitting in that location. And in number 10 on the list of the suburbs that have the tightest supply, we've got Moreton Bay suburb, Arana Hills, total of 30 listings on the market over the last at the end of April, and you'd be looking for a 3-bedroom home if you are looking for the highest segment of the market, the highest demand segment of the market there. I will say what's interesting about the total listings, the suburbs with the tightest supply, 7 of the top 10 are also within the Brisbane City Council region, with the remaining 1 in Ipswich and 2 in Moreton. So that's an interesting trend. So both the tightest supply for new listings and total listings, the majority of those suburbs are located in the Brisbane City Council region. And what will be interesting, which we'll share with you now, is that completely flips when it comes to the highest supply. So when we talk about supply and we talk about listing volumes at a greater Brisbane level, we're not making that granular. We're not breaking that down into different city council regions, nor are we breaking that down into locations like suburbs or postcodes. But that's the purpose of today's podcast, because it's going to help you understand where it's going to be harder to buy and where it's going to be a little bit easier to buy simply based on the availability of homes on market.
So if we look at new listings, and this is the highest supply, so we'll go the opposite way now. Highest supply for new listings, and at the top is postcode 4207, which is Logan Village, 294 properties.
Yeah, in the last 30 days, 294 properties became available for sale. So compare that with the tightest supply market where we had 4. Huge difference. Now, 4-bedroom homes are the most popular. If you're looking for 2 or 3-bedroom properties in Logan Village, there's really not a lot of supply whatsoever. So be very cautious about product type when you're looking in this location. Next on the list, we've got postcode 4300. This is in the Ipswich region. It does pick up a few suburbs, including Gales, Goodna, Springfield, Lakes. 196 properties became available for sale just in the last 30 days in these locations. Most popular product type, 4-bedroom homes in Springfield, Lakes. Not a surprise given the demographic and the population that live in that particular location.
Now, the next one is 4305. Now, I always say this wrong. It's Brazil, which is in the Ipswich area. So
Russell.
East Ipswich, Ipswich, North Ipswich, Raceview, 149 new properties
available. That's right, in the last 30 days. So a couple of higher demand parts of the market there. East Ipswich, 3-bedroom homes, a lot of people looking for that product. North Ipswich, 3-bedroom homes as well. So again, we're going to touch on demand in a future episode rather than combining all of the data into one episode today. We're coming back into the Brisbane City Council region now. So next property or next location on the list is postcode 4006. That includes Fortitude Valley and Hurston. Now, this is an inner city location, a lot of high density units, especially in the Fortitude Valley area. 131 properties became available for sale just in the last 30 days across these suburbs.
Next one is 4500, so it's in the Moreton Bay area. 127 new properties there. Cashmere, Bray Park, Brendale, Strathpine and Warner.
That's right. Definitely, if you were looking in Strathpine, you'd be looking at 3-bedroom homes. However, if you're shifting across to Warner, you'd be looking at 4-bedroom homes if you're wanting to target the demographic group or the product type that's going to appeal to the majority of buyers as an investor. But obviously, that's going to be the most competitive segment of the market. So if you are a buyer in that segment of the market, you can expect much higher levels of competition.
And the next area is postcode 4152. So that's on the south side. That's Camp Hill, Carina Heights and Carindale, 111 new properties.
Now, I will say these are areas that they share the same postcode, but they're quite large geographical locations. So it is important to state again in this podcast, we are not looking at the percentage of properties that are becoming available as a portion of the properties in that location. We are simply stating raw numbers of properties that were listed in the last 30 days. So in these locations, yes, you might have seen more properties become available in one suburb over another. This is where local knowledge obviously can completely trump, I guess you could say, data, because you can see the volume of buyers that are turning up to open homes. You can see how many properties are actually being listed online in the suburb that you're searching within. And it's really important to overlay that local knowledge or that local understanding of suburbs with the data that you might be looking at. If you are looking in Carina, 3-bedroom homes are the most popular product type, but in Camp Hill and Carindale, you'd be looking at 4-bedroom homes as the most popular product type there as well.
Yeah, and some high demand over that area as well.
Absolutely.
The next one is postcode 4503. Again, we're in the Moreton Bay area. You've got Griffin, Kalanga, Dakaban, Redcliffe, Scarborough, and Murrumba Downs, and 110 new listings.
Again, a big geographical location covered within these suburbs. If you're looking in Kalanga, 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom homes are both fairly popular in that location. But if you're over in Redcliffe, 3-bedroom homes become the preferred property type. So back in Murrumba Downs, it's 4-bedroom homes again. So these are some little insights, some little gold nuggets that I'm sharing with you to help you understand, where the demand sits in each of these pockets. It's going to help you if you are a buyer and competing with these other buyers in terms of setting a strategy around how do I go about, negotiating or purchasing a property. Is it likely there's going to be a lot of other buyer competition? Do I need to firm up my terms? This is why this information matters.
Next one is postcode 4000. So Petrie Terrace, Spring Hill. I believe that would pick up a bit of the CBD as well.
It does pick up the CBD. So again, a lot of higher density units and smaller terrace homes and things in these locations. 109 new listings just in the last 30 days. Now, because you're looking at higher density, demand actually sits in the 2-bedroom properties, especially in Spring Hill. That's where the highest level of demand sits. But again, that's very dependent on the location, because in Petrie Terrace, it's the 4-bedroom properties that have the highest level of demand. So it's important to understand those local parameters. But 109 new listings in postcode 4000.
And the next one with 107 new listings, we've got postcode 4133. It's in the Logan area, so Logan Reserve, Waterford, and Waterford West.
Yeah, so the most popular property type across all three of those suburbs are the 4-bedroom homes. So people are looking at larger homes as they move a little bit further out into those locations.
And to wrap up the top 10 here of the highest supply of new listings, with 99 new listings, we've got postcode 4053. That's Everton Park, Everton Hills, McDowell, and Mitchelton.
And that actually wraps up the top 10 list of postcodes. What I will state, for new supply, that is properties listed in the last 30 days, only 3 out of the top 10 postcodes are from the Brisbane City Council region. The remaining 7 are from areas in Greater Brisbane, which will include Ipswich, Logan, and Moreton. So it's an interesting observation. It just says that listings are starting to increase. People refer to some of these areas as the mortgage bolt areas. So basically they're areas that, people potentially might be feeling a little bit more mortgage stress. Is that relating to more properties coming on the market? Is obviously far too early to tell, but it is an interesting trend and observation and something that we'll be watching closely in the months ahead.
As we jump across now, we'll go to the highest supply.
Belt. The words just come to me. Belt, not bolt. Apologies, listeners.
Total listings. So the highest supplied areas with total listings. So if we start at the highest supply with 630 new listings, we've got Logan Village, which is postcode 4207.
Yeah, 294 new listings and 630 total listings. There's a lot to choose from if you're looking in Logan Village. And yeah, look, as I said before, if you're looking at 2-bed or 3-bed properties, there's not a lot of competition in that area. So that's something to keep in mind. But 4 bedrooms are the most popular product type there. Number 2 position in terms of where there's the most stock available, we're looking at postcode 4109. That actually includes 17 Mile Rocks, Chambers Flats, Sunnybank Hills, 557 properties available for sale across this postcode. Larger homes, predominantly more popular in Sunnybank Hills. But if we're looking at 17 Mile Rocks, it's the 3-bedroom homes that are more popular. So again, depending on the suburb itself, the demand will shift according to the size of the property.
And the next area, which was in the new listings top 10, with 419 total listings, is postcode 4300, which was Gales, Goodna, Springfield, and Springfield Lakes.
Yeah, Goodna are the 4-bedroom homes, more popular, and Springfield Lakes, as I mentioned previously, 4-bedroom homes also more popular there. Next area also in Ipswich, Scott.
4305, 332. Again, this area
total listings
in the last listings and new listings, with 149 new listings, 332 total listings, and that's Brazil, East Ipswich, North Ipswich and Raceview.
And obviously, we've already talked about where the demand sits in some of these suburbs, so we won't repeat that in this episode or in this instance. So then we're moving on to postcode 4503. Also, it was in the top 10 for new listings. It makes the top 10 for total listings. It's suburbs in Moreton Bay, including Redcliffe, Scarborough, etc. These locations, 323 properties available for sale at the time this data was collected.
The next one in Hurston, 4006. Again, we mentioned that earlier.
With the Fortitude Valley.
Fortitude Valley area, 300 total listings.
A lot of choice there as well. Next one is a new one on the list, postcode 4101. It includes Highgate Hill and West End. Again, higher density locations closer into the Brisbane CBD. 3-bedroom properties, the most popular product type. Typically a lot of unit development in these locations as well, which is possibly why the demand is shifting away from 4-bed to 3-bed. But interestingly, a lot of 2-bed product in these locations. So again, understanding, not just what's coming to the market, but what's available within the market can make a big difference as well. And that's where local data and local knowledge can really set you apart from other buyers.
Yeah, that area is just on the south side of the city, and there is a bit more high density in there. It's up near Musgrave Pool there, where I swim every morning. So I know the area quite well. The next area is postcode 4503. Griffin, Kalanga, Dakapan, Marumba Downs, which we mentioned earlier, had 110 new listings. It's also got 276 total listings.
We'll move on to postcode 4152. That's going to include Camp Hill, Carina Heights and Carindale. We discussed these areas earlier. A total listing volume of 258. So again, more choice for buyers across these suburbs. It might not be uniform across all suburbs, and obviously that's where you just need to do a search by specific suburbs or get out and about and see what that buyer depth might be, because there's going to be more buyers if there's limited stock.
And wrapping it up is postcode 4301, Collingwood Park and Redbank, 250 total listings in those.
Yeah, and it's Collingwood Park every day of the week. The highest demand is sitting in 4-bedroom homes. Not much demand at all in Redbank, but still 4-bedroom homes more popular. Only 143 people looking at 4-bedroom homes per listing in Redbank compared to Collingwood Park, over 1,000 people per listing. So you can see the demand shifts between suburbs and how significant that could be. In terms of the highest levels of supply for total listings, we've got 4 of the top 10 postcodes being located within the Brisbane City Council region. Of those, the majority are the higher density locations where you've got high density units, including that West End precinct and also the inner city precinct and also the Fortitude Valley precinct. So keep that in mind if you are looking for that product type. There's a lot of other properties that are going to be available, so more choice for you as a buyer.
So that's a little bit of a wrap on new listings and total listings to help you understand the supply side of things. A little bit of demand, but we will touch on a little bit of that maybe in another podcast, as Melinda mentioned.
Always very popular.
Help you understand that demand, because it's all about that supply and demand on property as well. So
Absolutely.
Hopefully that's been good information. I'm sure that everyone had their pen and paper out ready to collect all those numbers. We do an exam in a couple of weeks to see who actually listened on the podcast and took notes. So, look, as usual, it's been great talking. I will let Melinda wrap things up. Thanks very much for listening. Take care and bye for now.
Thank you for joining us once again on this Brisbane Property Podcast episode. We hope you've enjoyed the data that we've shared with you today. Big shout out once again to Pauline for collating all of that within the spreadsheets for me to analyse and report to you on this podcast episode. As always, we would love for you to leave a review on our podcast, or at the very least hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. We look forward to speaking with you again next week. Until then, bye for now.